Great college football teams are not defined by their successes, but they're defined by how they bounce back from these losses. FSU lost their first game of the 2022 season against Wake Forest. We're talking about the positives, how we can grow from it, and looking forward to NC State coming this weekend on Locked On Seminoles. Let's ride.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to another edition of Locked On Seminoles. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Drake here, and today, on a much calmer, more composed, but very pointed episode we got today, I have Mr. David Wise in the room with me. David, what's going on, my guy? How you feeling today?
I have a diatribe right now I could go on. I'm not going to. I said I expected to win this game. I said Wake is a joke, and it is. It's the Vanderbilt of the ACC thing. You know, they're in their little good streak right now. Good for them. That's adorable. It's gonna be over soon. That's good. But I also said before the game that if we go 2-1 in this next 3-game stretch, it doesn't matter which of the games we drop. We're playing 3 ranked conference teams. All are good in their own right. So this loss right now feels bad because we were undefeated. I mean, as long as you're undefeated, there's the hope of a 12-0 season. No one that follows Florida State realistically expected that, but it was still on the table. And, you know, there was still this like potential for this magical season, which I still think 11-1 or even 10-2 would be. But yeah, not a great feeling losing to this one of the 3. Still think we beat NC State. We'll get to that. But yikes. I hate losing to this remedial school.
I literally asked how you're doing, I didn't know you were going to go this full entire arc, so you just jump into everything for the show today. But
I'm not good.
I mean, I know you're not good. But so then, folks, obviously we're talking about the Wake Forest loss today, and I think I'm right there with you. Obviously, I think while during the game you watch it, you get upset, obviously, because you feel for the entirety of the first half that this team was just absolutely bullied, and then you see sleepwalking through it, and then you see the adjustments going into the second half. And we'll talk a little bit more about the negatives and the positives. We'll start with the positives first, but it is a hard loss, but also it's our first loss for the 2022 season. The first loss of a season is always the hardest one to get through. And also, I think folks need to understand that I know Dave won't say it, but I'll say it for him. This is a Wake Forest team with a top-tier offense with 6th, 5th, 6th, and 7th-year seniors and an elite quarterback, and also an elite quarterback that's run that offense for what I think since probably pre-World War I. So to me, overall, this team, it's a very good team. That doesn't excuse the loss, but let's move forward from that. We'll talk about the positives first. Dave, I know there wasn't much on the afternoon from a positive standpoint. What do you actually view as a positive from this game forward? Actually, move forward with this game.
There's some positives for sure. I continue to be impressed with the fact that Jordan Travis is a passer now. He's a passing quarterback. I continue to be impressed by that. Like, I keep expecting it to not be the case. Like, for him to do something, it's like, yeah, there it is. And it's like, then he does it again. It's like, okay, that's more like what I expected some of that to happen this season. It ain't it. He's a pocket passing quarterback. The Jordan Travis run game, you only saw a couple scripted runs. He has converted his running ability to moving around the pocket and creating the space he needs to keep his eyes downfield and find his receivers, which segues into the second positive. These receivers are legit, man. Any given day Florida State plays you do not know which receiver to worry about because it's all of them. Micah Pittman had a day. Johnny Wilson has had a day. Darian Williamson's had a day. And Terry Wilson's had a day. Every one of the main receivers, it feels like, on this team has had a day. And mind you, we may still be missing the best receiver on this team in Winston Wright. We don't know.
And Ja'Kai Douglas. Don't forget about our boy Ja'Kai.
Right, man. Like, this receiving core continues to just play beyond my wildest expectations. Jordan Travis continues to live up to the hype. He had some struggles in the first half. We'll get to that in the second segment. But yeah, the offense, especially at the quarterback and wide receiver positions, just continues to defy expectations.
No, and I completely agree with that. It's kind of funny how we've always been like, whenever we do our huddle up, which is basically our Saturday morning. I just made a name on the spot, so maybe we'll change it to something else if Dave doesn't approve. But we do like a early game day morning, kind of like 10 to 12 minute like short form little preview, and we always pick an offensive player and a defensive player to look out for. And this is the one time, the 1 week we did not say Micah Pittman, and sure enough, our boy goes off for seven, catches for almost he had 2 touchdowns. Like he had an amazing day.
He did.
And you're right about Jordan. I actually thought this was probably Jordan's worst game, but then you look statistically wise, he still completed 66% of his passes for almost 280, I think, 1 yards total and 3 touchdowns. You're just like, even when he's off his game and when he's still being harassed in the pocket, which we'll talk about in the next segment, he still is delivering dime after dime after dime. He was inaccurate in the first half, but you're going to be inaccurate kind of when you're throwing off your left foot and your back foot, and also when he still is hampered with the knee brace he has on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We before the season, we had this big discussion about what we needed to see as the next growth point for Jordan Travis. And I think the consensus was, God, man, just be able to have 250-yard passing games. Like, we didn't feel like that was asking too much. That's pretty standard in the college game, especially in this era. And it's getting to the point where if Jordan Travis doesn't hit 250 yards and he's healthy and on the field, it's surprising. And so clearly, he has it between there. He has his arms there. I'm just so impressed. The fact that we're 4-1 right now makes me feel good that we're not totally wasting an incredible year of quarterbacking from Jordan Travis.
No, I completely agree. And folks, I know we're 6.5 minutes in. We still haven't gotten to the negative. Like first, like we want to highlight some of the positives, like things that keep you going in. But also, there is a lot we need to talk about for this game analytically because we need to improve on what we saw yesterday. Because yesterday was not the team that we saw for the first 4 weeks of the season. In fact, it might have been a team that we saw not from last season, but the year before. But before we do that, folks, let's talk about our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs, LinkedIn Solutions. These days, for every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have the access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and, most importantly, for free. Dave, you've used LinkedIn Jobs before, correct?
I have. My law firm has used LinkedIn. I've personally posted on it to post positions for paralegals, which is not easy to find. It's not easy to figure out where to post it. LinkedIn made posting the job very easy, attracted quality candidates that we actually did an interview. So yeah, if you're looking for an easy way to post jobs that are going to generate real leads for quality candidates you're going to interview, that's the way to do it.
It's 100% the way to do it. After law school, I went to a larger firm and then I felt that wasn't sort of my big fit. I went down to a smaller firm and thankfully LinkedIn Jobs was there for me to help me out. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free, and for the free. As always, folks, terms and conditions may apply. Okay, Dave. We got the good cop out of the way.
Yeah.
Now it's time we need to realistically evaluate this team. Basically, overall, we did not look good as a unit. Jordan Travis looked good. The wide receivers looked good when they actually were fed the ball. But overall, this team, quite frankly, and I hate to say this, was bullied by Wake Forest, the smallest Power 5 team in the country. Dave, I'm going to let you go first because I know you have a diatribe. You've been holding it in all weekend. Or by weekend, I mean the past 24 hours, which isn't that long. You go first. Where do you want to start?
Here's where I want to start. Guys, Wake's not bad. Whatever. They have 4 blue chip players on their team. They were so out talent matched. It is not even funny. Yes, that coaching matters. The fact that a lot of these guys on this team are transfers and came from another system or played under Willie Taggart and have had multiple changes at the coordinator positions. That stuff all matters. But we are infinitely more talented, even at the least talented point in recent memory in Florida State football than Wake Forest. So yeah, that's really frustrating. But I hate to sound, I mean, Jimbo used to talk at Florida State a lot about situational football, and
we're not discussing Jimbo Fisher after he got qualified by Michael Leach. We're not. I don't want to hear anything about that man right now.
The situational football, my God, did that kill us in this game? Because if you just go look at the box score, you think you could think Florida State may have won this game. But just the situations, man, the number of times that I watched DBs 5, 8, 12 yards off coverage on critical third and shorts. Just incomprehensible to me. The number of times we failed to get any pressure whatsoever. You watch that slow mesh sit there for, you could count 4 to 5 seconds in real time. And yes, teams struggle with that, but we didn't even bother or just were completely ineffective outside of when Jared Verse was in the game at applying pressure and quickening that mesh. It just led to drives continuing and the defense staying on the field. And when the defense is on the field, the offense is off the field, and the offense struggled in the first half too. You're going to struggle to find many ways to look at the advanced stats on this and not be pissed off. It was our worst game offensively this year by a lot. It was our worst game defensively this year by a lot. Ironically, best pass blocking game we've had this year. You could have fooled me telling me that. Good receiving grade, but just the run defense was terrible. The tackling was atrocious. The pass rush wasn't there outside Jared Verse, and the coverage was quite literally our worst grade of the year.
Yeah, I mean, overall, to me, this is where, if you watched our first 4 games, if you really watch them and really break them down, you saw that we did leave a lot of points on the field in all these games. When it came to LSU, we should have beat them by 2 scores. How many times did we say that? A lot. When it came to Louisville, we left a lot of points on the field as well, missing field goals. We won't just. I'm not going to go too deep into that. I think our stance for that is actually very heavily known. Yeah. We need a new kicker, but we did leave a lot of points on the field for that. Boston College, you dominated that game from start to finish, but there were certain points where, like, I think it was middle of the second quarter before the bomb to Kentron Portier, where that I think stagnated for 2 or 3 separate drives. So this is the game where finally you go up against your toughest opponent so far overall, tight flying offense. You need to be in a shootout where you are stagnating and leaving points out on the field. To me, it was no more evident with I think the last drive that we had before the half. It was very conservative play calling inside the 20. And I don't know why. It felt like they got a little bit too cute, a little more too run heavy. Actually, at that point, to me, I probably would try to force feed Johnny Wilson a little bit more, because he did kind of bully his way with the defensive back for Wake Forest because the starting defensive back was out. So to me, that was an issue. And then with your Adam Fuller thing, trust me, when you first texted me that, hey, Drake, please tell me, blame Adam Fuller, I'm like, I want to, but like, if you watch it, and then I watched it again this morning, obviously the 8 yards of coverage for the DBs and wide receivers, I wouldn't give Wake Forest wide receivers that much room, because Wake Forest wide receivers are actually very damn good. But also, you have the players in spots where they can't execute. One of them was the Greedy Vance that should have been a pick, should have been an interception. I know Greedy Vance is like 5'9", maybe 5'10" on a good day, that he should have caught that ball, or at the very worst knocked it down. Defensive line, Adam Fuller's not out there pushing them. Yeah. And the main thing that we said, the first thing we said on Saturday was, you need to get penetration and disrupt and interrupt the mesh. Cam said the same thing when he was on here for Know Your Foe on Friday. And so to me, overall, defensively, this team they just couldn't get off the field at all, period. And it felt like for the entire first half, we had no business actually probably wanting to be in that game. And quite honestly, I know Wake Forest scored only 31 points. To be honest, they lost 2 offensive linemen in the game. I think they packed it in and tried to get out of Dodge, similar to how basically you saw Louisville last year, kind of basically putting their foot off the gas a little bit.
Right. And Max brought up the point in our group chat about how you got to give the defense credit for limiting Sam Hartman and Wake to one of their lowest outputs of the year on offense. Yeah, you do got to give them credit for that. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But at the exact same time, we're missing pieces along this offensive line, key pieces, which are really hard to overcome. But frankly, I thought the depth was better than it is, because our offensive line looks like they forgot how to play football at times. Just, I don't know, go pull up the PFF grades, whether you like it PFF or not. Scroll to the bottom. You'll see all the worst performances of the day listed on the offensive line. Micah Pittman at the top, Johnny Wilson at the top, Jordan Travis at the top. Not surprising. That's what I said I thought the best was from that game. On the defensive side, you had 2 guys graded 70 or above, Jamie Robinson and Dennis Briggs. You brought up the point. Robert Cooper was bad in that game. He was really bad. We had a lot of individual poor performances in that game. So yeah, it wasn't just on Fuller. There's a lot of poor execution, just curious choices, being outplayed, but the coaching, you got to blame it on the coaching too. It's not just the players, and it's not just the coaching. It's
everybody.
And it's part just Wake outplaying you. There's a lot of factors that went into this. And I will say, unlike last year and the years prior to that, very proud of the way this team just didn't lay down, because there were several points in this game where it was like, all right, I might as well just throw on the Food Network because I see where this one's headed.
You
And
love food, man. I swear to
I
God.
do. And you could imagine past Florida State teams, the players coming off the same way. Like they're just on the sidelines tweeting, or, just like scrolling Instagram. That didn't happen. The guys fought back. I was very proud of them for that. There were just there were missed opportunities. This was a game that was possible for Florida State to win, but it didn't portend very well when, after the very first series on offense, the announcer said that couldn't have gone any better for Florida State. That was exactly right. We went down the field with such ease. It was like, okay, this Florida State team is just going to kill everyone, the way that looked, and the way the prior games had looked on offense. And just after that, I don't I don't know exactly what happened, but what I do know is that was it. That the game didn't end, but for all intents and purposes, Wake seized control of that game right after that first offensive drive, because we couldn't do crap for way too long. And we say the same thing about Florida State basketball. They go on these streaks where they won't make a shot for 6 minutes. It's really hard to come back from that, especially for an offense this talented. So I know Atkins is splitting duties as offensive coordinator, or he is the offensive coordinator. So some of his time is being devoted to that. This offensive line has to get better. And frankly, take Jared Verse out of the equation, so does the defensive line. Starts up front.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do the offensive coordinator, offensive line split dudes, because we never said that about Kenny Dillingham last season. Primarily, I mean, that's which we probably should have, to be honest with you, because we did,
Probably.
like, if Nick is now, you're seeing the big kind of jump where like Tony Tokar's like has, like, you've seen him with Jordan Travis, like how the jump is astronomical.
Yep.
But I think it's more also to injuries too as well, because
Yeah.
with the offensive line, you lost Caden Lyles, then you lost Bless Harris. Maurice Smith was hurt coming into the first few games. I think so, still starting to come back.
Robert Scott banged up.
And then you lose Robert Scott.
Yeah.
And you have Darius Washington at a left tackle spot, who Darius Washington to me is someone that could excuse me. Darius Washington is someone that, to me, if he was at a Power 5 level, any other school, and was given a full offseason and a half to basically bulk up, get bigger, and stay healthy, he can be an all-conference caliber player. The thing is, Darius Washington has been playing since day one, since he got here. He has never been healthy. He's never been able to get size on, and he's never been able to get functional strength. And that's someone you can have blocking a left tackle spot where, Dave, you highlighted it, and then we talked about it with Cam. They have some very solid pass rushers along the entire defensive line. And now we're going up against NC State with a very good defensive line, and Clemson, who basically has the Monstars on that defensive line, even though I don't know if Brian Brissy will be playing that game. And I know folks right now want to ask, is Julian Armella going to play? Do you really want to throw Julian Armella at this point in the season against those two defensive lines as his first test in ACC play, after we just said what happened with Darius Washington? So to me, injuries definitely are a big matter. Fabian Lovett, now we see like how much of an actual probably key piece of his defensive line actually is, because for right now, you're not getting much from Robert Cooper, Jared Jackson. Honestly, neither you're not getting that from Derek McClendon. Dennis Briggs is basically, you can see he's still trying to acclimate back from his injury. To me, you should be playing Joshua Farmer, Patrick Payton, let them kind of, like grow up on the job, because basically those are young kids, but that's your future right there. So to me, injuries are also a big factor for this, and they finally reared their ugly heads past weekend.
Yeah, so the pass rush, that's got to get better too. Kalen DeLoach and Jared Verse, the only two players graded 70 or above in pass rush. Those two, they're the truth. Kalen DeLoach just continues to impress.
He's so good, man. I'm going to be
so
so
good.
he's going to go early too, and I'm going to be so sad when he leaves.
Yeah, this is the last thing I'm going to say. Mike Norvell had to change his game. We had to go for two twice because we didn't trust our kicker to make a field goal from the 2-yard line, an extra point. He misses everything he takes. The last one wasn't his fault. That was too long. We knew he wasn't going to make that. I don't blame that one on him. But
yeah, why you send him out for that too? Like, if we're being honest, like you don't send him for the extra point, but you ask him to make a 55-yard field goal, which low key I thought that was going to go in for the first time. I'm like, this is actually a little more accurate than most of your kicks.
It's really frustrating to me too, because the kicking game, it's not bad, it's non-existent. We can't be kicking field goals. We have to play in a way such that we're getting 4th and short so that we can go for them, or else we're punting, because we're just not going to make them. So that really sucks. We have such a long lineage of successful kickers here at Florida State with NFL careers. Clearly, this isn't one of them. It is changing the way we have to play. And it didn't in this. It could have changed the outcome of this game because there was a point late where we were down 2 scores, should have been down 1 because that field goal he missed was so short. And I'm not going to blame the game on Ryan Fitzgerald. I'm not going to blame the season on Ryan Fitzgerald, but Ryan Fitzgerald does not exist to me. That name's not being spoken again by me on this show.
We're gonna close the book on Wake Forest. That's a good team. That's a team that basically, if they're 15-4, I think basically in conference play over the past few seasons, that's a good damn team. And I know people hate to lose them because it's Wake Forest, but like Max said on his show over there, Seminoles Like a Brief, this is not your mom and dad's Wake Forest. This is a good Wake Forest team. Dave, I'm going to mute you, but don't roll your eyes to me because they actually are a good team. But Dave, you know who's not a good team?
Who's that?
The Oklahoma Sooners. And today, and that means we're going over to our favorite segment, the Fade Dave segment, brought to you by our friends over at Bet Online. Bet Online is the fastest and easiest way to bet all related sports action. Dave, do you know who Oklahoma plays next week?
You mean who Oklahoma loses to? No, I don't, but tell me who they're losing to.
Another team that you are not fond of at
Don't
all.
say Kansas.
No, Kansas is actually a good team.
Yes.
I love Kansas, actually.
Love them.
No, it's a team that actually people call them the Miami of the Southwest, and that is the Texas Longhorns. And reportedly,
Right.
your friend, your boy, the mullet from down under, Mr. Quinn Ewers is going to be starting that game. And right now, the line is Texas is a 6-point favorite away at Oklahoma. So, Dave, what are you taking for this game?
Okay, this is one of those games where you really just wish both teams could and would lose. You can't root for either of these teams. They both suck. They're both insufferable. They're both fake SEC teams. Can't wait till they both suck there.
And this is why we keep Dave on the show. You see, basically, everyone gets the hatred from him. He doesn't discriminate from that.
No, I don't. Equal opportunity. Quinn Ewers is just a joke. I don't know. Get a haircut. But putting that aside, Texas isn't back. They're so far from back. Oklahoma is so much better than Texas. I know they're playing like crap, and they're not good. They're not as good without Lincoln Riley, obviously. And they're especially not as good without Caleb Williams or Spencer Rattler. They're gonna beat Texas straight up, and they're gonna beat them good.
What if I told you Dylan Gabriel was the Oklahoma quarterback?
Oh, what if I told you he should have stayed at UCF?
I can see that. You can see this. So, Dave, Oklahoma is +6.
Oklahoma money line. Forget the +6. That's a waste of money.
Oh, okay, folks. If you're trying to get really greasy with Dave, take Oklahoma money line, which right now is not listed at Bet Online, but most likely will be on later on in the week. So head on over to Bet Online today. Use promo code Locked On. That's LOCKEDON because Bet Online is where the game starts. All right, David.
Yeah.
As we have closed the book on the nerds of Wake Forest, I will call you nerds forever. I really don't care. Shout out to Cam. Great time having you on. You're probably one of our favorite guests to have on, but Wake Forest is now dead to me.
Yeah.
NC State.
Yeah.
NC State is going to be the team that, quite frankly, they didn't look that great against Clemson. The defense looked very stout, but the offense, Devin Leary looks like the Devin Leary that you were talking about from a few years ago.
Yep.
Devin Leary last year came into the season as an All-ACC favorite, ACC Offensive Player of the Year. And so far, he hasn't looked the part at all whatsoever. He actually has the 5th worst QBR in the conference among starting quarterbacks. So, Dave, quick preview, NC State, what should we be looking out for?
Well, I think NC State is a team that was force-fed down people's throats as a really, really good football team. I think they're good. We could have beat them last year, to be clear, and we were a lot worse.
If we had Jordan Travis starting that game and we didn't have half the kids out with the flu, we would have won that game.
Devin Leary, I feel like, is a quarterback similar to NC State, and probably not coincidentally, that's being force-fed down people's mouths as one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC. It hasn't looked good this year. I said before, I think his ceiling is like a Mike Glennon or something like that.
Why would you pick? I'm saying,
I know. I understand that Mike Glennon beat us. That was a fluke. That led to better things shortly after that. So,
fair enough.
All right. The reality is this about NC State. I believe they're more beatable than Wake. Wake ran an offense that I hate, but that is effective, hard to defend, and evidently allows you to just hold all you want and not get it called by the refs and just have illegal men downfield all day long. Doesn't matter. NC State's not as complicated. It's not gimmicky. It's a very straightforward offense, an offense led by a quarterback that has wildly underperformed. There's no one on that team that I believe there's no AT Perry on that team, first of all. And second of all, their defense is better than Wake's for sure. That's that's not what I'm worried about in this game. If we can make NC State's offense look like everyone else has, then I trust Jordan Travis to score enough points to win this game.
Yeah, I think this is basically the defense for them. Actually, I give them a little more credit than you do, but I do think that's a very solid defense. I mean, they did limit Clemson to like it was 23, but then at the end they get the backdoor, not the backdoor cover, but the cover of the total. Which thank you by the way, DJ. That was great by you. But overall, to me, this is another test for the offense, and this is a test for the offensive line. Hopefully, like we saw, Robert Scott actually was dressed and warming up with the team before Wake, and I think this that if we were playing NC State this past week, you probably would have seen Robert Scott play because I do think the defensive line is a lot stronger than Wake's. While Wake does have solid pass rushers, they should not have been able to bully you that like that. And now you're seeing that Darius Washington literally on one single drive with a false start and a holding penalty basically killed a chance for us to get back in the game. And he could probably tell you the same damn thing. Now, offensively with Devin Leary, he's a guy that doesn't make many mistakes. Well, this season he's a little more turnover prone. I think he had 2 picks yesterday against Clemson, which Clemson had the secondary back overall. So to me, this is a game where I need to see Adam Fuller be a little more aggressive with his defensive backs. I don't want to see any more of this of the cornerbacks being 5-8 yards away because, like Dave just said, they don't have a true elite option outside auto whatsoever. Emeka Emezi, who was a player that burned us a lot last year, is now gone. Thayer Thomas, who burned us 2 years ago, he's still there, but he's someone that basically catches the ball. He runs up 2 yards, does a quick curl, and he's a kind of your check down target. So there really is no option out there. To me, it's going to come down to the running backs, which Wake Forest coming into the game yesterday was, I think, bottom 20 when it came to rushing efficiency on the offense side of the ball, and they ran for almost 200 yards yesterday. So to me, this is going to come down to basically we need to keep everything in front of us, but also I think we have the talent on the defense side of the ball, and I know it's wrong saying this now, to bully them in the linebacking core and secondary as well.
Yeah, you hit that nail on the head. NC State's receivers just haven't been good this year. They've actually been really bad. And that'll be a good spot, I think, for our defensive backs to kind of flex and gain their confidence back. I do not trust that team to go out and put up 30 on Florida State. I expect us to hold them under that. And yes, NC State does have a good defense. And that's largely the reason why the national media has, in addition to Devin Leary, has been so all over them. Yeah, it's going to be tough to score a bunch of points on them. But again, there's points to be scored against that defense. Yes, like you said, I think leaning the sexiest way to score points has been and always will be to throw the ball down the field all over the place. Everybody loves the air raid. NC State doesn't have they have a good but not terrific run defense, and our running backs have been terrific. You got to keep giving Trayshawn Ward and Trey Benson the ball. They should have some running room against NC State. I know everybody's fan favorite Corey Durden still there. Probably will be there for 10 more years.
He's a captain. He's a captain actually. He was all ACC defensive lineman last year. He's actually been. I think he's turned everything around actually since he got in there.
Yeah, that's very adorable. Good for him. I hope he has just the absolute worst game imaginable. But there's going to be some running room to be had against them. Again, just like that, their pass rush, good, not great. So this could be a good spot for the offensive line to gain some confidence. I don't expect the offensive line to get bullied again in this game. I'm really hoping Atkins has some sprints for these guys to run. I do expect improvement in that area. But NC State is vulnerable because we're going to be an underdog. We are an underdog. They're vulnerable to an upset in this spot. I believe this to be. I said Florida State would go 2-1 in these games. Yes, that's not a static projection. It obviously, based on what I see on the field during that span, that can change. But I still consider this a win, and I'm not really worried about this game. NC State's not a pushover, but I have a pretty decent level of confidence in beating what I consider a pretty vanilla team.
I agree with you. We were saying from earlier. Like heading into the year, I actually liked us to beat NC State more than Wake, mainly because that Wake Forest offense, no one can stop that.
Yeah,
I know that is one thing. Like I will say, I will agree a little bit where while 31 points, they definitely let off the gas. That's still limiting them 31 points overall. And to me, with NC State team, vanilla is a very good way to put the offense because the offense, you can see Devin Leary is not super comfortable with the way it's run. And with Donovan Knight leaving and also Emeka as the wide receiver, they don't have the tools at his disposal to run it well. And Devin Leary does not look comfortable at all. And that's from a guy who was a top 5 quarterback in the conference last season. So to me, with a 2-1, I personally was the effect that I think 1-2 in this spot probably would have been great. Like, would you be fine if we went 1-2 in this spot, go 5, and we were 5-2 heading into the bye week? Because to me, that is I would take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I mean, of course you would take that. The way they had played through 4 games led me to believe that the team was way ahead of schedule, and they still are ahead of schedule. We're going to find out how much. I think if you're going to continue the trajectory you're on as a program, I don't like doing small sample sizes where you say like, oh, this game makes or breaks that trajectory. This feels like kind of you got to win this one, because this is a team that you should that's projected, because by Vegas and by the analytics, to beat you. They're projected to be a little better than you, but this just feels like a game that you could be able to win. They have NC State's great at coverage, so your receivers are going to get a really good test in this game. You're going to see it again against Clemson, but we're going to learn an awful lot about what this team's made of in this game, especially on offense. I think people are going to be pretty surprised how much we end up running the ball. But either way, I have this penciled in as a win, and probably closer than to match my confidence level, but I'm pretty confident in a win in this game.
I was about to say I lean towards a win in this spot too, because if you watch, like, folks, I don't know if you watched the game from Clemson NC State, check out the condensed game, because if you see the defense, like Dave was saying, it's a very good defense.
Mm-hmm.
The offense is what actually kind of holds them back a little bit. And to me, that's basically where we can finally find a way to execute and also head into Clemson 5-1, hopefully get game day back in Tallahassee, because that would actually prove pretty dope. But that's all the time that we have for today. Dave, love having you here. You know, it's always a great time talking with you. Even though it was a Saturday, it wasn't as fun as usual. We're no longer undefeated, but we all, always listen. This is how we grow. We grow, we blossom into a better team, into a better podcast too. Dave, let the folks know what to do in the podcast level, and then also with the YouTube.
If you don't like looking at our beautiful faces, you can always hear our luscious voices anywhere you get your podcast: Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, Google Play, everywhere.
And also you can do playback speed to help my voice too. So I feel that.
Right. And on YouTube, give us a like if you like the video. Subscribe to the channel, please. Turn on the notifications. Ding the little bell at the top. It'll tell you when our videos drop. And leave us a comment. I have very opinionated takes, so I'm sure some of you are going to disagree with some of it. At least you're probably all pissed. Maybe more pissed than I am. Maybe more pissed than I should be. Tell us why.
Please tell us why. And also, we keep Dave here. He's kind of the Stugatz of our entire show, where basically he's unfiltered takes. He's bold, he's brash, but that's why we love him. And for that reason, we got to say goodbye now. Dave, love you, my man. We'll see you tomorrow, because that was Dave. This was Drake. And we'll see y'all next time on Locked On Seminoles. Take care, everybody. Beat NC State.